Nation. We're back.
All right, welcome back to another episode of Fire the Cannon. I'm Rocky.
I'm Megan, and we are Fire the Cannon.
Look at that. Welcome back, Megan.
Thanks. How are you doing?
Good. I'm wearing my beach volleyball shirt today. I wish you could see the back. The back is pretty cool and colorful and beach volleyball. And I'm more of a person where I want the fun stuff to be on the front of the shirt. I don't like things to be on the back. And 9 times out of 10, I don't buy it if the big design is on the back. But I grabbed this one because it was all they really had, except the other tank that was like bright ass orange, like beach orange, not so much Texas orange. But anyway, I'm wearing my beach volleyball shirt because, you know, they played in the championship this week, which we will talk about tonight. But lots to talk about. How are you?
Yeah, good. Hanging in. Just feeling like there's a ton going on. Always, we say this every time. We're always like, man, seasons are wrapping up, you know, but there's a lot going on. Texas baseball did a little heartbreaking this weekend. Softball did not. So, you know, let's dive right in.
You and I were talking about last night at the game is the weekend Texas, the softball women go to OU and get swept by OU. And the men are at home and they sweep the Aggies rivalry, you know, flip the script. And then the following weekend, Texas men baseball go on the road and get swept by Arkansas while the women are at home sweeping Kentucky. So it's how it goes. It's a long, good season, but somehow Texas baseball is still number 1 in the country. And we'll talk about that. So we're going to talk baseball. We'll talk a little bit of softball. We want to make sure we have some fun stuff happening around social media with all the Texas athletics. So we wanted to talk about some conversation points. And then we're going to give some time to Texas football's coach Sarkisian's interview with Josh Pate, which was really good. So we have some clips to have some conversation about that. And then we always have our favorite top stories, things happening in sports and beyond sports that we like to talk about. Megan, how was your Cinco de Mayo?
It was good. I mean, I feel like it was very laid back. We have this new guy at work, so he's somebody that I'll be managing. So I took him out to lunch and had actually a really great margarita at Easy Tiger, if you'd believe it. They had like one of the better margaritas that I've had in a long time. And it was only $5 for Cinco. So not mad about that. How about you?
Well, we cooked at home because it's like crazy time. It's the one day of the year where all the great restaurants are packed. We made margaritas at home, and I will show you. We have a peach tree in our front yard, which is pretty amazing to get like real peaches in our front yard. So this year, normally we get a million little bitty baby peaches. This year we got fewer peaches, but big fat peaches. And they're so juicy, like you have to eat them over the sink or over the trash can. They're like so juicy. So we took these peaches and then we diced them up and I put them in this blender and we made homemade peach margaritas for Cinco de Mayo at home, and that was pretty delicious.
Hey,
so
can't be mad about that.
We have a peach tree in our front yard, even though we don't get peaches. Give them like just for a few weeks, they're ready to go, and you got to go. And normally we can't even give them away. We have so many peaches. This year we didn't have very many.
Yeah, I just remember you having a bunch of like fat, happy, drunk squirrels one year because there were so many peaches on the tree, like it was impossible to pick them all. And the squirrels were just like having a heyday. They were living it up.
That's the best is peach margaritas for Cinco de Mayo. That's what we did. And then last night you and I went to the baseball game, which was a lot of fun. Perfect weather. It was so nice to get out there. It looked rough with bases loaded 5 times and not much coming from it, but we had a great time. And Texas pulled it away at the end. I think what they were waiting for is for me to go home, right? Because I was like, I'm so exhausted.
Maybe.
I got to get home. And as soon as I left, boo, they lit it up.
Yeah, it was definitely a kind of a wild game. You know, it's coming off that Arkansas loss. Like, again, we'll jump right into it with baseball. Kind of a rough weekend for Texas. You know, it was that heated rivalry coming back. I will say this. I feel like I know that I'm old. I'm in my 40s. I am very aware of the rivalry that Texas and Arkansas has. And I will say their fans are not great. Now, Arkansas is definitely one of those teams that hates Texas more than they love themselves. And I feel like it is hard to describe to some of the younger generation how that rivalry goes and how Arkansas acts towards Texas and how much they hate Texas. And so, in a way, I feel like this was baseball's, maybe this particular team's first taste of like just how much Arkansas hates Texas. And listen, credit to the Hogs. They absolutely whooped the crap out of Texas this past weekend. It wasn't like there's not a lot of sugarcoating it. It was just a good old fashioned butt whooping, right? So, but to your point, Rocky, and we've got to say this before we get into the nitty gritty. Texas came out of that weekend still ranked number 1 in most polls. So it was kind of the perfect storm. Kind of the perfect storm, right? Go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, you're right. Let's talk about that. One poll has Texas number 2 behind Georgia, but other polls still had Texas number 1. So let's do a few notes about the team overall, and then we'll get, like you were saying, into this Arkansas weekend. So you can see here, Texas still ranked number 1 with Arkansas right behind them. So and Georgia, this poll has Georgia number 5. So, it's whatever, but Texas is still very much in contention to be hosting a regional and securing a pretty good spot. So what are your thoughts about going into Arkansas, getting swept and handily swept, and still being number 1 in many of the polls?
Look, I feel like this is one of those weekends that if you know baseball and you've been around baseball for a while, you go, yep, that's just how it goes sometimes, right? It was the perfect storm of the teams that were right on Texas's heels in most of the polls, losing as well. So while yes, Texas had a poor showing, we've got to keep things in perspective, right? This was the first SEC series loss that Texas has suffered.
Can you believe that? The first series loss, like it's crazy.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and it was on the road against a very good Arkansas team. Obviously, we saw them rise in the rankings a lot. They were a former number 1 team as well this year.
Right, just a few weeks ago.
Yeah, exactly. So, look, this is where we start to see, we've been hearing it all season. Oh, the SEC is a grind. These teams chew each other up and spit each other out. Well, Texas was just the victim of that this weekend. Again, I'm not trying to take away from what Arkansas did. They played good ball. Their pitching was lights out. Wood pitched really, really well. But I feel like a vast majority of what really put Texas's back against the wall, and when things just got out of hand, was Texas just not getting out of their own way. It was uncharacteristic. Like they didn't look super motivated. They were not seeing the ball at all. The bats were absolutely cold. But I think the real story of this past weekend was the pitching by Texas. The normally rock solid Ruger Riojas had a really, really tough Friday start. Again, Rocky, let's talk about how many people Texas put on base, walks and hit batters. It was an outrageous number throughout the evening. Again, we're talking Ruger Riojas on Friday night. He pitched 3.2 innings, gave up 7 hits, 9 runs. So fewer hits than there were runs tells you how many batters were just getting free passes. It was just problematic for Texas all weekend. This was something that, Ruger got pulled pretty early. And I'll say Cody Howard came in, pitched a pretty good game, kept it within reason. But again, it was just that first outing that was really tough. Bryce Navarre came in, pitched decently. But it was just once Texas got in that hole, right, kept putting guys on base, kept getting those unearned runs. It's just tough for the Horns to get out of it. Again, it was just one of those weekends where they couldn't see the pitches well. They weren't hitting. Bats just weren't streaky. And you put a few guys on base, Arkansas is going to jump all over that, right? Texas would bean a guy or put a guy or walk a guy, and then the next man up cracks a home run. So it was just a really tough weekend all the way around. We talked about this. So Friday night was the 6-1 loss for Texas. Saturday, I'm sorry, I keep doing this. Now, this was one of those weekends we started on Thursday. So the first game, I'm going to say first game.
Butt kicking.
Yeah, it was 9-0. And that's one where, again, Schloss, we only went through 3 pitchers, which was good, but you could kind of see by the time that Cody Howard got pulled, it's basically like, all right, well, we're just going to take our ass kicking, get ready for the next game, lick our wounds and prep for the next game. So, Luckily, didn't burn a lot of arms there, but unfortunately didn't really pan out in the end. So yeah, it was that 9-0 blanking that Texas took. Again, you just kind of take it on the chin, move on to the next game. Next game, again, that Friday game was the 6-1 loss, where there was a little bit of spark of hope, but again, the same as the story all weekend. Just Texas pitching couldn't get it under control, kept putting guys on base, unearned runs, and then again, credit to Arkansas, they took advantage. They absolutely took advantage. They'd get bases loaded, they get a few guys on, they get 1 or 2 or 3 guys on, and they hit. You know, they took advantage of it. So, and then again, that final game on Saturday. Now, this is one where we felt like, you know, Texas was playing for pride. We knew the series was already, Arkansas had already won the series. But Texas showed up, you know. They didn't want to get swept. They were fighting, and it was back and forth. Texas jumps to an early lead. But again, credit to Arkansas. They responded every time. Anytime Texas went up, Arkansas responded immediately. Boom, boom, boom. And it was back and forth. There were a lot of lead changes here until the very end. Now, I do want to point out, this is something our friend Nash, let me see if I can find these notes here. Yeah, that's something our friend Nash Talks Texas pointed out. 8 of the 15 runs that Arkansas had scored on Texas, so over half, over 50%, has reached base from either a walk or hit by pitch. So you take those free bases, so game 1 and game 2. So he had tweeted this out during the third game, but you take those free bases from game 1 and game 2. It's down. Like the game 2 tied 1-1 after Galvan hit the home run with 5 innings left. It really was just a story of Texas could not get out of their own way. So one of those weekends where you just look at it, you got a lot on tape now, you got a lot on film, you got a lot to look back on and say, all right, well, let's not do that again. Let's pick up, let's move on, let's move back from it. So Rocky, what did you see with that Arkansas, that rough Arkansas weekend?
You know, you started talking about it, about the environment, and that a lot of these players haven't, you know, they haven't gone into that kind of heated environment. The most hated rival really was us this year. I mean, they've played at College Station before, but the most hated rival is the Aggies, and they got them at home, and they get OU, but that's also on the road next weekend. But so to go into that environment, and like you mentioned, it's one of those fan bases that hate themselves more. I mean, hate Texas more than they love themselves, right?
Yeah, they probably hate themselves a little bit too.
Yeah, they hate themselves and Texas more than they love themselves. No, but you can tell by looking out at the crowd, all the flags upside down, Texas flags upside down. You know, thank you for your contribution to Longhorn athletics, right? They spend all this money on Texas things just to put it upside down. So it was a lot of that, and they had their weekend. No, I mean, you can do nothing but give them props because they whooped Texas every night and every game. And there was the rain delay early, so that kind of threw things off, and they just could not get things going, and the crowd was really responsive. One of the things that you and I were talking about after watching that game, over the weekend series, is, you know, they wear those Hawaiian shirts to, you know, they have players that were from Hawaii that they really respect. One of them was with the media booth that week over the weekend, really, you know, engaged with the crowd, and but still with the, you know, the fan base. And I was like, oh, we should be doing things, you know, islandy, because we have Island Boy now, Jonah Williams, right? So we're like, we need to be doing some island things for Jonah Williams soon, but not yet. It's early. He's young. He's playing now, but there's some fun things that you see. I guess the more you experience different fan bases, especially teams, fan bases that really are invested in their baseball, which we'll see more of that in the SEC. Fan bases that are really, you know, knowledgeable of their baseball history and their players, and they have traditions that are baseball traditions. That's kind of fun. And I know Texas has some. Texas has lots of baseball traditions. Some of the best ones that they're getting more national recognition, you know, the call out when the player hits a home run, you know, coming out and getting their curtain call.
Yeah,
those kind of things that other people are seeing that Texas does too. That's always, you know, just a side note to the game. But yeah, like you mentioned, how many more times was the pitcher going to hit a batter and put him on? But I was like, I could never pitch that. I couldn't even make it to the plate. But you would think because it was like in their mentality after a few that
1,000%. Look, again, baseball is a mental game for sure. And we know that hitting is contagious, but I will say that bad pitching can be contagious too, right? You get in your head a little bit, it is hard to shake that off. You get a couple of innings back to back like that, or you get a couple pitchers back to back like that, all of a sudden it just kind of sets in, and it is tough to shake that off, get out of that rhythm. You know, you see coaches leave guys in to try to work through it. 9 times out of 10, that's the thing. But sometimes it just ain't your weekend. And it just felt like it wasn't Texas's weekend all weekend long. You know, they got out of Fayette-Nam. Again, this is a thing where you just look at it and you go, well, sometimes baseball be like that, right? It just wasn't a good weekend for Texas. Now, what worked out nicely, again, some things played in Texas's favor with a couple of those teams right behind the Longhorns in the rankings. Top 5 teams went down as well. They lost series. They didn't look as sharp as they had throughout the season. So it played to Texas's favor. Again, you're starting to see the end of the season, end of the regular season. You've got
injuries are starting to pile up for teams.
Right.
You know, being down a Friday night pitcher really at some point these things are going to catch up with you.
Right. I mean, to put it in perspective, Texas has been out. You know, Texas lost their number 1 batter, their most prolific player in Max Ballou, right? Kept on winning. Then Jared Spencer goes out. You're just ace pitcher and your Friday night starter. Texas kept on winning. You know, we've seen guys banged up. We caught this, Rocky. I don't know. This was something we actually found out on Tuesday when we were at the game. We saw that Doza was out of the game on Tuesday against Lamar.
Right.
Turns out he had the flu. And that's something that Schloss had mentioned, that the flu was running through it. He said it started on the weekend. So, you know, maybe there was a little bit of that. I'm not trying to make excuses. Again, we'll fully own that Arkansas kicked Texas's butt this past weekend. But the flu can be pretty nasty. And if it's running through the team and everybody's not 100% there mentally and just feeling a little run down, not quite rested, keep in mind, too, it was a short week for Texas, right? With that Thursday, Friday, Saturday series rather than starting on Friday. So they had the Tuesday game. You know, you have an emotionally draining, we talked about it on our podcast last week. You have that emotionally draining series against A&M. You come out victorious, you sweep them. Then you have the Tuesday game. Then on Wednesday, immediately you're on a plane and boom, you're playing on Thursday. So certainly a short week for Texas. Add on to that, you got a bit of the flu running through the team. You know, things happen. So again, I think this is something that will look, this is where a lot of fans, maybe if you're new to watching baseball, welcome. We appreciate having you here. Texas loves having you here. But you do have to kind of shift your thinking, certainly as a fan, right? When you're watching, this isn't that football mentality where every single game matters. Every single game is weighted incredibly heavily because you have just so many games throughout the season. Baseball's a little more forgiving there. And we are at that point in the season where teams are banged up. You know, you're reaching that home stretch, the lights at the end of the tunnel, you're figuring things out. That's something I did want to point out that is really important too. After the Lamar win, so again, I'll quickly recap that. Texas started off kind of slow, but this was another game where we saw a lot of free bases here. Fortunately, this time it was Lamar issuing those walks or hit by pitches rather than Texas so much.
Many walks. There was was it Borba that almost broke the record for getting on base 5 times by walk, but
That's
instead
right.
of that 5th walk, he hit that bomb.
That's right.
Homer.
Listen, if you're gonna miss history, that's a way to do it in style. But yeah, Texas takes that game against Lamar, and Lamar's a good club, right? Texas takes that game 9-3. Let me tell you, that game was almost 4 full hours. I think I clocked it at 3 hours and 43 minutes or something like that. Like, we're all exhausted, but bats woke up, hitting's contagious. Once Texas paid attention, then here we go. And here is that Borba bomb.
Let's play the Borba bomb for you.
Out of the stretch, Osagira's pitch. Swung on and the ball hit well out toward right. Back to the warning track. You can say goodnight to it. Apple tackle for Casey Borba. Over the right field wall. And the Longhorns have some insurance. They now lead 6-3.
That was a crucial time too, because we saw Lamar strike first. They were a really good team. They had almost as many wins on the season, 37, 38 wins or something in the season like Texas. Of course, different level of competition, but still tough to win that many games. And they struck first. They took the early lead, 1 run to nothing. But Texas chipped away, and like they've been doing, by the 4th or 5th round, then they figure out inning. They figure out what's the batter, which they weren't able to do in Arkansas, but they were able to do again last night against Lamar. But yeah, that was good. A really interesting thing that happened last night is we can talk about this. Bases loaded. ended up being 5 times the bases were loaded in this game. And the 3 of the
Texas.
times it was
Yep.
Jonah Williams who came up to bases loaded. And I clipped them here for you. I put them in a little collage the 3 times. The first one, little pop right to the pitcher, out. The second time he was able to get on base and
with an RBI.
Yeah, an RBI. He brought one home. And then the third time, I think he tagged out. I can't really see what happened in that third one. But the relief on his face when he made it to first base, and the second time he was bases loaded. But what are the odds of coming up? And it was 2 outs every time. 2 outs and bases loaded. For such a young player, like, that is trial by fire, that he keeps coming up right in those really crucial. And this is when it was a 1-run game the first time, the second time. And yeah, that was interesting. We were like, they're just loading the bases for Jonah again.
Yeah, again, I mean, if you've been out and you've been watching Jonah at all, it's really, really impressive to see what he's doing at this age. I hate to sound like that broken record, but it is worth noting. I mean, they mentioned this on one of the broadcasts that Jonah Williams should be at his prom right now. He should be getting ready for graduation from high school right now, right? And he's out competing at a high level, starting for D1, a history program like Texas, in D1 ball in the SEC. So it's really impressive, to your point, Rocky, to watch him up. He come up to bat in these difficult situations. He's getting a lot of good swings, right? He's getting in a lot of good situations where he can figure it out. You're seeing how he works mentally, not just physically elite. This kid is something special. He really is. But he's got the mental side of it too. He understands the game. So a few little lapses here and there, right? We saw last night that maybe he didn't move quite as fast out of left field, and a ball plunked down, but a catchable ball for him for being as fast as he is. But again, I think that's something that we're going to chalk up to being a freshman, and he's figuring it out. And the errors with him, and I shouldn't even say errors because he's not committing errors, but
right,
just the
learning, the learning
curve. He doesn't have a long way to go, right? He's picking things up quickly, and it is just truly impressive to watch him out there. He is an absolute athletic freak, and it is awesome to see him. So it'll be exciting to see him on the football field as well, and just see how he picks up there and what translates. But just the athleticism of watching him play he really is something special. So again, if you haven't been out to the Dish, please try to come out this weekend. Get some eyes on Jonah Williams.
Series.
I don't know if it's Rocky frozen or me, guys. So we'll keep going here. Rocky, you there? All right. Hey, y'all, sorry about that. Looks like we lost Rocky here. She should be joining us again. So for those that were checking it out, like I said, crazy weekend. Texas did nice to recover with Arkansas. Hey, Rocky, welcome
I'm back. I don't know why my main computer is down, but I have my laptop. So.
I couldn't figure out if it was me or you, so sorry for the silence.
I don't know why. My main computer just decided it doesn't have internet for some reason.
All right. Well, they got a lot of me staring blankly into the screen because a lot of times it's me with the internet issues that locks up. Things go crazy. But we're back. Anyway, so yeah, like I said, great baseball. Looking forward. Now, something I did also want to point out with Texas, with that game against Lamar. So Texas has locked in an RPI. So Texas will be hosting. It is absolutely clinched that they will be hosting a regional. Now we'll see if Texas gets as far, how supers play out. Things so far looking good for Texas, right? Now, of course, we know that the Longhorns have to win 4 more games to win the SEC regular season. Different scenarios can happen. So if Texas goes in and handles business against Florida, wins all 3, then it becomes a pretty easy situation going into OU for that final series of the regular season. Now, again, Texas just has to, if they win both series, just take 2, or they sweep and take another one. Texas has at least a share of the title for the SEC. Arkansas, if Texas loses, or does not win 4, then there is still a way that Texas can share the title, but it takes some losing from Arkansas and a little bit of back and forth there. So these are still critical games that we're playing, still critical series with Florida coming into town. And again, Florida's shown some flashes, but certainly Texas has an easier rest of the season with Florida, and then a game in the series in Norman to finish out the regular season. Whereas Arkansas, I believe they still have Tennessee. They still have, I want to say Georgia. I could be wrong with that, but they've got a pretty difficult schedule going up there. So lots to look forward to still. Things are still looking up for Texas despite a tough weekend in Fayette-Nam. But hey, onward, right? Rocky, you have anything else to talk about or to add about baseball before we move on?
No, you talked about the schedule this weekend. Friday, 6:30 p.m., Saturday, 1 p.m., Sunday, 1 p.m. Sunday is Mother's Day. So take your mother to the baseball game if she wants to go to the baseball game. Sunday is Mother's Day. Sunday is Mother's Day. No, but that was just a couple of interesting things that kind of notes that about baseball. Just a couple little things. That Galvan is listed right now as the #1 catcher in all of college baseball, according to D1 Baseball. I thought that was pretty interesting. And also an interesting nugget that we saw this week, that Schloss's team lead in pitches per plate over the last 4 years. And that says a lot, because we know we've seen some of these pitches lately. We were talking about that again last night, that there were so many walks, but then we were saying, well, also that's a lot of patience and a lot of pitches, and which means, maybe they have to go deeper into their bullpen and all those other things that come from that. But also they can get on base and take advantage of getting deep into pitch counts, which was pretty interesting. That is a Schloss thing. Like, he leads the country every year, his team, and patience and getting deep into pitch counts. So I thought that was pretty interesting too. Just a couple little baseball notes that we wanted to share before we move on.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, well, like I said, Texas fans, you lick your wounds, you move on. One bad weekend does not ruin a season. So Texas still in that good position. All right, let's talk about softball a little bit here, Rocky. Anything fun and exciting there?
Well, they swept Kentucky. Bounce back. Talk about Texas bouncing back from the sweep away on the road. Texas softball bounced back from pretty dominating, getting swept at OU. They bounced back. They swept Kentucky at home. 9-1 was a strong win. 7-6 closer on Friday. Again, they had the Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and a big 12-3 win. But I think the highlight of this weekend, the highlight of the big news, was Mia Scott. We have to talk about Mia Scott and how she played every position on the field this weekend. And I'll show a video here with Coach White and some of the players talking about Mia Scott playing every position. And I'll hit play.
At the last minute, they kept telling me she's going to play reposition. That's the first I knew of it, was the start of the game. So it's like they kind of do that stuff to me. They kind of like talk amongst each other, and then they bring this stuff up, and I know I can't really battle it too hard.
I had no idea. We were just out on defense, and I knew they put her at shortstop, but I thought maybe it was just because of the hitter or something like that. And then she started moving around, and she's like, hey, you're going to third. And I was like, oh, so we're going to play all positions. And then finally the last inning, they were like, okay, Mia is going to go into catch. And then I kind of figured she was going into pitch too.
How cool is that?
Yeah. Just such a special thing. So this was actually the first time in program history that one player played all 9 positions for Texas. So that's a really special thing. And again, look, I'm going to give a shout out to Kentucky here. I'm feeling generous. I'm feeling nice. But it wouldn't have been possible without Kentucky coach agreeing to it, right? Like there were still some, Texas could have been penalized for taking a little bit longer. There were still some logistics that had to happen. The Kentucky coach had to agree to it, but once they saw what was going on, they let it happen. And again, it was a pretty solid butt whooping at that point in that final game.
Yeah.
So hats off to them for allowing it to happen. They could have been petty, and it was just a really cool thing to watch. As soon as Mia Scott had that catcher's gear on, she caught and then immediately took that off and ran out to pitch. I mean, it was cool. It was a really neat thing. So we watched history happen.
That was pretty cool. And I think especially because this, for the women, it was their last home series, regular season series, looking like they could get opportunity to host postseason at home. But this coming weekend, well, starting tomorrow for Texas, but has been already playing for the lower seeded teams, is the SEC championship tournament and for the women's softball. And so the bracket has already been established. Here's the bracket. I'll show it to you. And Texas will be playing, it looks like Texas will be playing Ole Miss because Ole Miss got past Florida today. Let's see. Yeah, Ole Miss got past Florida. Arkansas is moving on. LSU is moving on. Those games happened earlier today. This is what's really fascinating about this. And I'll zoom in. Texas, if they get past Ole Miss tomorrow, and if the Aggies get past the winner of South Carolina, Alabama, I don't know if that game's already happened or not. I haven't gotten that far. But the winner, if there have it where Texas and the Aggies could play would be semifinals. Wow. Finally, Texas would play the Aggies in softball this year. We know Texas has spent a lot of time at number 1 this season. Aggies had their 1 week at number 1 and then dropped back out. But they ended up ranked higher overall in the SEC, came in as a 2 seed over Texas. How exciting would that be if let's see, that would be Friday. That would be Friday if the Aggies played Texas in the semifinal.
Look, that's going to be some really good softball if that happens. We saw it last year in the regionals. Was it regionals or supers? I get my days mixed up and in my tournaments mixed up. But last year, I mean, it was a play-in. It was a win or go home. And A&M came into Austin because Texas was hosting last year. And it was incredible softball. Like these two teams, there is no love lost there. They're both playing softball at a very high level. And yeah, you're absolutely right, Rocky. Like right now, as far as trends go, A&M's trending up. Texas stayed a few weeks at number 1. They were looking really good, but then they had a couple of rough weeks and just weren't playing real clean softball. So this is certainly setting up to be just a battle between these two teams and the old foes going back at it in the same conference. So definitely, I think that would be a treat. But for teams that weren't matched up in the regular season, it's kind of ironic that they could end up playing for the SEC tournament, right? To play into that championship game. And then again, there's high potential for these two teams to meet up again in the regionals for softball. So yes, they didn't play regular season, but I think there's still a lot of really good softball left between these two. So keep your fingers crossed for that, y'all. It's going to be pretty incredible to see.
All right. So right now it looks like Texas is playing. Let me click back into I'm on a different computer now, so I have to go find the things. Tomorrow Thursday, 4 p.m. is the quarterfinals against Ole Miss. SEC Network, which means you can stream it on the app if you're out and about or streaming from work or whatever at 4 o'clock. So yeah, that's the softball SEC championship. Let's play this video here because Coach White and let's see, and Reese Atwood were at the at SEC Media Days, the media softball championship media. And here's where they got a little quick interview with the SEC Network peeps. I'll play that for you. I'm working from 2 different screens right now. So hang on. Here we go. You gonna play?
Joined now by the head coach, Mike White, as well as Reese Atwood. Guys, welcome to the SEC tournament. So great to have you here for the first time. Feels like forever. We've been counting down to this moment. How excited are you to have a little bit new scenery here in the postseason to start it out?
Well, I don't think words can put it into place.
Yeah.
It's just really exciting to be part of this atmosphere and be part of this tournament that we've watched from home for the last few years. It's very exciting. Some great competition and really some good games that have already gone ahead of us.
Joined now by the head coach, Mike
All
White,
right.
as well as Reese
There
Atwood.
they are, media days, getting the attention. That's always fun, like to get national TV, get some attention to your program. That's exciting.
Like, I feel like every time I hear Coach White talk, I forget that he's Australian. Like, I know he's Australian. I know he's got the accent, but every time I hear him talk and at these, engagements, I'm like, oh yeah, Coach White is Australian. I love it.
Yeah, he has
Catches
a
me off
great,
guard every time.
great accent. Hold on, I'm trying to. Okay. All right. So
One of these days we'll get a producer here, but right now, we're just winging it
I'm
ourselves.
fine. I'm logging back into my other thing so I can get back to my big screen. Okay. Anyway, it's working again. I'll move to that one in a second. All right. Hang on.
Oh.
I know. I'll do that in a second. I'll do that when you do the read. Do you want to go ahead and do the read for our buddy Chuck Smith?
Sure, why not? Let's figure it out here. So
yeah. Go ahead.
All right, y'all. If you were looking for the perfect Texas getaway, look no farther than the Rockin' Diamond S Ranch. Nestled on a beautiful 120 acres in Blanco, Texas, the Rockin' Diamond S Ranch is the perfect getaway. There is so much to do there. With a property that sleeps 14 with one primary house and 2 fully furnished cabins, you can do wildlife watching, fishing, play with the Longhorns, say hi to Gabriel for me, feed him some treats, get some Longhorn loving. There's indoor and outdoor eating in areas. It is just a gorgeous, gorgeous place. The weather's been perfect. The scenery's perfect. Take a splash in the pool, as you can see there on the screen. It's just a lot of fun. It is only 5 minutes away from downtown Blanco with breweries, eateries, shopping, and more. So y'all, the season is rapidly coming up on us. So look for, you need a Mother's Day, last minute Mother's Day trip. Check them out. Or book for the Texas games with the football season coming up, because it will be here before you know it. Give them a glance. Take a look at their website. Again, that is Rockin' Diamond S Ranch, ROCKIN, no G, DiamondSRanch.com. Or you can give our friend a call at Chuck Smith at 512-694-1969 and reserve your spot today. So got to say shout out. Oh, and thank you, Seth K. And of course, my Aussie friends would kick my butt. Coach White is from New Zealand, not Australia. My bad.
I thought he was the Kiwi, but I didn't want to.
Yeah. Yes. Call me out on that, man. If it's wrong, it's wrong. I love it. Well, welcome back, Rocky. We're happy to have you here.
Thank you. I'm back. Okay. So everything's fixed. It was really like my brain was on fire trying to do both computers while trying to get my big one back up. Anyway, yeah, so we got softball covered, moving on. All right, so we have some really fun things that we found around social media, some fun topics that we thought would be kind of fun to just talk about Texas athletics in general. And let's see. So let's start with, and I'll just throw them out random. Let's start with this. Texas wins the SEC All Sports Trophy. After the softball and baseball last weekend, it secured the spot with Texas softball finishing third in the SEC. That secured the spot for Texas with only 18 of the 22 sports finished. Texas will have won the All Sports Trophy in year one. What do you say, Megan, to the people who said Texas is swimming and diving school, or to the people that say Texas is not SEC ready?
Look, I was told this was supposed to be hard. So, I think Texas set the tone early on with soccer going in and absolutely dominating in the SEC, taking that first SEC championship that they were there. And the Longhorns have not slowed down since then. So I think it's been really crazy. I think a lot of Longhorn fans had that confidence. Listen, we get called arrogant all the time. Maybe we've got a little too much swagger, but I'm going to ask you, is it arrogance if we're right? I've got to say, I've been enjoying these delicious receipts that we find. I think UT Barstool had posted something about back when when it was announced that Texas was going to come into the SEC, and
Uh-huh.
Barstool had posted something about, oh, we're going to come back to this when Texas is dominating in the first year. And of course, there were like 300 bookmarks or something like that.
Oh, of course.
Wasted clicks, y'all. Wasted bookmarks, because Texas, sure enough, has come in and taken that all-sport trophy. So you got to love it. You got to love
How
it.
cool is that? And it really has been a combination of the success of the women and the men. Of course, golf and tennis are still going with the women. We'll talk about that in a minute, what the women have going on in golf. And it's the women's success in basketball, softball, volleyball, right? Not the elite level volleyball has been recently, but still very competitive and accumulated points. And then the men's, football and the other sports, baseball doing so well, which is also why Texas is projected to win nationally again for the fourth time in 5 years. The Directors Cup. If you follow direct_cup dates, you'll see the rankings and the explanation, and a really great guy that keeps up with all the points. And after every event, after beach volleyball this weekend, looks like Texas is projected to win pretty handily. So congrats. That's again a complete athletic department. So not just the best in the SEC, best in America.
Yeah, well, and something too, like that just speaks to the programs that CDC has put together in Texas to go into a new conference, and arguably one of the best conferences in a lot of different arenas.
Oh,
right?
absolutely.
Football, certainly baseball. I think it could be argued this year basketball was right up there with the Big 10 and the Big 12 as far as that goes, and probably better. And you're looking at a team in Texas that put themselves in harder competition and is still coming out on top, winning and securing championships. And you got to love it. You got to love it. So like we say, it's a good time to be a Longhorn, my friend.
Yes, it is. All right, let's talk about also a good time to be a Longhorn. Texas beach volleyball. I'm wearing my beach volleyball shirt today, which you can't really tell. It says beach volleyball all over the back. But like I said earlier, this is on the front, a little beach volleyball. But the women of the beach volleyball team, we know last year they had kind of a shortened trial season. Whatever what would they call it? The season, the little practice.
It was an inaugural season.
But it was a shortened season as they built the team. This year, in their first year, they went to the championship tournament. They advanced after the first round, beating Cal. It was so exciting. They won 3-2. It really went down to that fifth match and went to extra points, and there they were. It was so good. So congratulations to beach volleyball.
Yeah,
I have
absolutely.
the video. You want to see the video of that final point, Megan?
Sure.
Okay, hang on. Here we go. I'm going to play it for you. I'm, again, dealing with two screens. Here we go. That's Richard all excited. Here's the point. Oh, I think she thought it was going to be out, and it wasn't. I think she thought it was going to go out, and it was like inches, perfect ace. What a way to secure but they advanced to get to play TCU, who they lost to earlier in the year, but TCU went on to win it all. They got swept by TCU, but TCU, if you're going to lose to them, I guess you lose to the team that wins it all.
Look, yeah. So again, like you mentioned, really nice for beach volleyball in their first full season. So to your point, Rocky, like last year they did play, but it was about half a season long. They were building roster. Yes, they did have the full teams, but it was only a half season. And keep in mind, Texas didn't have a single home game all last season because they hadn't built the facilities yet. So yes, they were a team, they were figuring it out. But so to get this far, to get to the quarterfinals in the championships in the first full year that they've had is a pretty impressive feat. So a lot of fun things there. And like you said earlier, some people like to talk trash about Texas saying, oh, you're a swimming school, you're whatever. Well, hell yeah, we're a volleyball school, and that's regular volleyball and beach volleyball. So what's up now?
Yeah, that's pretty good. All right. Congrats, ladies. And next year, even bigger and better, right? That's pretty impressive for their first real competitive season to advance that far. All right. So let's look now. This is a fun talking point, Megan. There's let's see who these people are that put this post out. Front Porch U put out this little guideline of who they think is the most rabid, passionate fans of each conference. So they have for
football, for
football fans,
Yeah.
for the ACK, they have, is that Tulane, the Green Wave?
That's Tulane right up there. Yep.
So we have a friend who works at Tulane now. Do you think she would say they're probably the most passionate fans in all of the
In the ACK, yeah, I would say, why not? Tulane is in a great place. Again, you're in New Orleans, so a lot of fun going on around there. Good vibes. And listen, I'm always down for what is it, the Green Wave? They've got that kind of retro wave with his little megaphone. Yeah, I think they're pretty good fans.
He's pretty
They've got
cute.
a pretty decent baseball team too.
So Navy Army up there, Clemson for the ACC, they do sell out their stadium. They're packed crowds. Virginia Tech has so much tradition. They're up there. Nebraska for the Big Ten, I would have to absolutely agree. They sell out every game. They have a history, like record-breaking sellouts.
Even when they're terrible.
But look who's way down the list, like mid of passionate. Ohio State, Michigan, and Oregon, they have them below. I mean,
honestly, I think when I look at this, some of this feels like if we're just talking about football, like I get it, right? Ohio State, yes, they've got a passionate fan base, but they're dicks, right? Like they're passionate about being jerks. I don't know. Nebraska, I can 100% get with putting Nebraska at the top of this list for the Big Ten, because Nebraska's been trash in football. Like, if we're just being honest, they've had a rough few years. They have fallen off. And yet every year, Nebraska sells out their home crowd, their home stadium. They pack that place, 100,000 people every year, 95,000 or however many Memorial Stadium in Lincoln holds. Mm-hmm. But it is sold out every game, every season, even when they're in the pits. So credit to Nebraska for sure. Wisconsin, I got to say, Rocky, like, have you been to a game in Madison? For me, that's a bucket list. No. Yeah. No. For me, that's a bucket list. I want to be a part of Jump Around. I want to experience that environment.
Oh, yeah, that would be fun.
That just seems super, super cool to me. So,
but look at the Penn State whiteouts or like classic college football. Like,
right.
I think in this moment, like we were at Michigan, they were pretty riled up and excited, and they've consistently sell their stadium out too. Even when they're down, they're still there. Anyway,
I could argue that.
Oh, I wouldn't put them ahead of Ohio State or Penn State, but I guess they're mid, overall for Big Ten. Purdue at the end, LOL. Look at the Big 12 quickly, and then we'll jump over to the SEC. But look at the Big 12. They have Oklahoma State and BYU at the top.
I don't know.
Texas Tech. They have Texas Tech down at number 9 of 10, and I would put them way higher as far as passionate.
I don't know. For me, this is a difficult thing to analyze with an objective eye, because teams treat Texas different, and that's my experience, right? Like, I've had a different experience as a Texas fan going in. Now, what I would argue, I also think some recency bias is playing into this as well. OSU, they can get really rowdy. They can be way up there. I think Oklahoma State is kind of feeling like this is their time to shine, right? Texas is out, OU is out. This is their time to shine. So maybe that's playing into it a little bit. But I'm a little surprised, honestly, to see Iowa State mid-level here.
Right. Like, Aggressively Optimistic said they would have had Iowa State as the number 1 in the Big 12.
Thank you. Yeah, look, I've had some great times in Ames. Their fans are pretty great. I mean, they got real chippy with Texas. They didn't love Texas, but they're a passionate fan base. Now, there was a period of time that Iowa State was just down in the dumps for a hot minute, and you probably, like, tickets were cheap. It was easier to get. But if we're playing the recency bias thing with it, and I think we are with this particular lineup here and how they're ranking things, I would definitely put Iowa State higher than this. Like, West Virginia's kind of fallen off a little bit. I've been to K-State when it's dead as hell. So, I'm a little surprised to see Iowa State coming in at like a mid-pack here.
All right. So Conference USA, MAC, Mountain West, those are listed. But let's get to Well, what's left of the Pac-12, we don't have to worry about. But the SEC, they have the Aggies listed as the most passionate football fans, then LSU, then Texas. I think this is also another kind of like the Big Ten, where the top 5 or 6 could all say they're the most passionate, right?
Yeah, I think that's true.
3.
And look, I'm probably going to piss off some Texas fans here. I don't disagree with this ranking. The only thing I don't really agree with is Auburn maybe being as high as they are. I'd probably put Tennessee above Auburn here. And again,
Alabama above Auburn,
right,
too.
That's what I'm saying. I know we're talking recency bias here, but even this, like, come on, man, that feels, having Bama down at the very bottom. I don't know. Like, I don't disagree with A&M and LSU being at the top. Like, Tiger fans are crazy. They're crazy.
Yeah.
They love their football. They're drunk all the time. Like, they regularly clean out places of their booze. And A&M, again, I'll give them credit. No matter how terrible their season ends up, they still have people in line camping out in literal tents to get those student draw tickets and to pick those tickets. So they might not have the history to show it, which I would almost argue, like, you finish 8-4 and you still have your fans camping out to go to your games. Yeah, I'd argue that's a pretty passionate fan base there.
Yes. All right. So that was interesting. Let's show this. Someone else has listed the top 5 college towns.
We're just ranking things today, huh?
SEC college towns. This is from Next Round Live. They listed Austin, Texas as the number, just come in and winning everything. Top 5 SEC towns: Austin, Texas, then Starkville, Mississippi, Baton Rouge, Auburn, and Athens, Georgia. Is there anybody that should have been in here that's not?
Oh, man. Again, if we're talking college towns, Texas has an unfair advantage here because Austin, by far, like, I don't know that you can call Austin a town. Like,
No.
it is the capital of Texas. It is a big city.
Yeah.
Yeah, the metro area. Now, granted, that's a pretty big, like, we're talking a range of area, but the metro area has what, 2 million people in it. It's nothing to sniff at, right? Like, it's a pretty big area. So while I agree with Austin being the best, like, college atmosphere in the SEC, like, being great for the city, I will fully acknowledge that Texas definitely has, like, an unfair advantage here. All right, aggressively, you say Nashville. You're going to have Austin in it.
I agree. If you have Austin, you got to have Nashville. Both pretty similar cities.
But
yeah, Nashville.
But I'll say, I mean, Nashville's great, but, like, Austin cares about their college football, where Nashville doesn't give 2 shits. I will say that.
But they're talking about the town here.
Yeah, but they're talking about, like, college towns. Like, they're in the college context. Yeah, I mean, it says college town. That's what they're ranking.
I know, but I don't know if they're just ranking the city or the town. But I would put Nashville in there above Auburn. I don't know. Anyway, that's pretty cool. All right, let's move on.
I just don't think Nashville cares at all about football.
Oh,
they just don't.
Probably not. No.
They don't care about the Titans.
No, they don't. All right. So here's another one. Good news for Texas women's soccer. We talked you mentioned it a bit ago about Texas women's soccer. They won the regular season SEC championship. They actually they put this media out. They have 20 players right now who are active pro players, and they list here all the different teams that are 17 different organizations, 20 Texas players. How cool is that? I didn't realize that they put so many women into the pros.
Yeah, look, what Coach Ange has been building at Texas is incredible. I mean, I don't know if you heard this. I mean, a while ago, she came on to third and Longhorn. Rocky, did you happen to catch?
I heard that. That was so good.
So insightful. I mean, she's led such this incredible life, and she's so deep into soccer and has such deep roots there and has played with some of the greats. To see what she's building in Texas, I just think it's awesome. And while it surprised me to see 20 active pro Longhorns, like, that's awesome. It also, like, when I stopped and thought about it, I was like, well, yeah, I mean, Texas has been slowly and steadily building dominance and going on. And like we just talked about, you know, Texas won the SEC championship, first year in it. Like, what she's building is a stable program that develops players. and you're seeing that come to fruition. They're 20, professional. I mean, that's badass. You gotta love it.
Yeah, I'm glad they put that media out because that's something I hadn't really thought about.
Yeah.
All right. Texas women's golf, congratulations. They came in second place at the regionals last weekend in Lubbock, and now they puts them in the NCAA championship tournament in Carlsbad, California, which starts in 9 days on the 16th. It goes to the 21st. So congrats to the women. Good luck to the women. I hope they kick butt in the NCAA championship tournament. So they got a shot at a national championship.
Yeah, both the men and the women made it there.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. All right. I keep saying pretty cool. Never mind. All right. Cody Clemens. Did you see he hit a home run? Texas Longhorn, lifetime Longhorn. Cody Clemens hit in his first game at Fenway Park. He plays for Minnesota. But in his first game at Fenway Park, he hit a home run. And his dad, Roger Clemens, was there to watch him throwing up the horns. Let's watch this.
And now Clemens to right and deep.
No doubter.
Back, deep it goes and gone. Let's go. Cody Clemens in his first game at Fenway Park with the Rocket here has put his team on top. A 6th inning 2-run homer, and the Twins take a 3-1 lead. Let's go. Sometimes you gotta mix up the lineup if you're Rocco Baldelli and get some fresh blood in there.
Get some fresh blood in there, and he comes in and hits a 2-run homer, and Roger Clemens has the horns up from the suites.
Listen, you can never say that the Clemens aren't lifetime Longhorns, man. They got burnt orange coursing through their veins. And like they mentioned, Cody had just moved over to the Twins. So awesome to see him doing well. I think the Twins are now his 3rd MLB team that he's been with.
It didn't.
Mm-hmm.
So,
sorry.
Nope, you're right.
Just setting up the next thing. Half the time, like there is no sound. Half the time, there's too much sound. I don't know. Anyway, go ahead.
No, I'm done. You're good. Let's go.
No, I was listening to you. I was trying to set up the next thing. All right. Did you see that Sean Miller, what our Texas basketball coach, was on the Johnny Carson Tonight Show when he was a kid?
This is like the most random thing. Did we just go into like a random segment?
Our buddy CB found this and shared it on the internet. So I had to share this too. Thank you, CB, for finding this.
Our attraction. Would you welcome Sean Miller? It was March of 1983, and back then it didn't get any bigger than being a guest on The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson.
That's so true.
Good to meet you, Sean. How are you?
Nice to meet you.
14-year-old Sean Miller was not only a guest, but the owner of 2 segments. First, sharing laughs and telling stories with Johnny.
What's your best record for consecutive shooting baskets?
Well, one time when I was out in Wichita, Kansas for an all-star game, I hit 50 in a row.
50?
Yeah, it took a long time. The teams had to wait to come on the court.
You were at halftime,
Yeah,
you just kept putting them through.
Then demonstrating his uncanny abilities with a basketball.
All right. Listen, with 2 basketballs, somebody is going to have to show this to him again and ask for a reenactment. I'm just saying.
He makes it look easy. This stuff is actually really hard. But Johnny Carson, what a classic.
Which also kind of dates him a little bit too, right?
Yeah.
Well, that is very cool. That is very cool.
That is so cool.
We're just in a random segment here. I like it. We're just pulling up random things.
That's what I wanted to do. All right. One last rando thing, and then we will get to Texas football business. But this is a great way to transition into Texas football business. It is Arch Manning. And he, everyone knows he's now with Viore. He's the spokesperson for Viore, only the biggest time media availabilities for him, right? So here he is. He did a little commercial for them, but watch this.
Favorite scent? Maybe like some when I smell someone boiling crawfish. It's a great scent. Oh, I love this. I needed a candle for my room. This is perfect. Yeah. Crawfish boil. Yeah, smell.
They made a candle for him that smells like crawfish.
Favorite smell.
So if you're listening,
Listen,
They-
I love crawfish boils, but I don't want to smell I don't want my house smelling like crawfish.
Then it's just gonna make you hungry.
No, it's gonna make it smell like fish. No, hard on that for me. That nothing about that sounds appealing. I
Yeah.
appreciate that it's weird. I appreciate that it's unique, but I don't want to stink up my my place smelling fishy and salty and bleh. No, thank you.
All right. Well, that's a great way to transition to Texas football. Megan, let's get into the 2025 team. Of course, always start with Arch Manning, but let's look at the top returning players. Of course, Arch Manning's not listed here as a top returning player because he's technically, well, he is listed here, even though he shouldn't be because he's not technically a returning starter, but he's returning. So they have him as the number 6 quarterback in the country, even though he only started a couple games last season. The Jack Endries, the tight end that Texas just got in the transfer portal, already listed as the second best tight end in the country. We know we have the number 1 edge and the number 1 linebacker coming back, Colin Simmons, Anthony Hill, Malik Muhammad coming back as a top cornerback, and my favorite player, Michael Taft's the number 4 safety in the country. Is there anybody missing here that you think is the best in the country, or anybody here you think may be rated too high, too low?
I mean, I'm a little surprised that we don't see Wisner on here. And I'm saying that because he is the only returning, looking at this, he's the only returning 1,000+ yard rusher in the SEC.
Right.
And again, a little surprised you don't see him there. I think that's a little disrespectful, if I'm going to be honest. It'd be nice to see him getting his flowers, but maybe this is his year. Maybe that's a chip on the shoulder that he needs to be extra motivated to show up and make sure that everybody knows his name this year.
That would be nice. I think he's more happy. I think he's the kind of player that would be more happy if the team wins the accolades, right? But yeah,
no doubt.
Yeah. So Texas has some of the top players in the country returning. We saw with how many draft picks they had, it looked like Texas might be getting a little thin at some positions, but no, they're reloading. All right. So Megan, big talk this past week was first started with Kirk Bohls' article about Texas. Do they have $35-40 million roster? Some people were saying yes. Some people were saying it's not that close, but it is high. What are your thoughts? Let's talk about that for a minute, about Texas having that kind of roster. And then I have a little meme thing I wanted to show you. What are your thoughts about that?
Do you think Texas is spending $40 million on their roster? $40 million on their football roster?
No, I don't think. I've heard enough people say it's probably 30, but 40 is kind of out there.
40
number
is excessive, right? For years we've been hearing all these outlandish numbers, and maybe that's what it is. Maybe I'm just jaded by all of these wildly inaccurate reportings. Since NIL started, it's always been this thing of oh, he's making $700 million his first, Arch Manning is taking a gajillion dollars. Look, Manning hasn't taken anything until he was a starter. That's what they decided. So that's when you saw, the Red Bull stuff all lined up. He hadn't taken any NIL before.
But he hasn't taken from the collective either. He's getting his own NIL, which Sark said, just like Quinn didn't take from the collective. He left that for the other players.
Right. But yet you'd hear left and right all of these talking heads reporting how much money Quinn was making. Well, first of all, that was wrong. And secondly, the estimated value versus what they are actually taking are two very different things. So for me, I'm a little bit jaded with this 40 million number. I do think it's high. I do think it's, 25, 30 million. Yeah, I could buy into that. But 40, I just feel skeptical about.
Do you think, say the number's 30, say it's 30. What do you think about that it costs $30 million? Because people were saying Ohio State's, I've heard anywhere from 20 to 30, and I don't care what anybody else spends. If it wins them a championship and the kids make good money, that's pay to play these days, right? That's just the way of the game. Do you think it's worth $30 million? How much should you pay for a championship team?
Look, again, all things considered, it's a hard thing to factor in. I think it's an outlandish number. I think it's a crazy number. I'm not saying it's right, wrong, or indifferent. But my old school brain does struggle a little bit to wrap itself around a number like that paying players, right? When we used to get in trouble or folks used to get in trouble for cars, and now it's just the way it is. I do think we're going to see some bumpers. It's still the Wild West, and a $40 million roster to win a national championship. All I'm going to say is if you're paying that much, you better hope that you win. But you also kind of have to factor in, like you ask, is it worth it? Well, how much money are you generating? Also, we just saw that Texas was the highest grossing, like highest revenue football program, highest revenue athletic program this past season. So nothing new for Texas per se. And I think the number was, what was it? The revenue was 339 million or something like that. So, I mean, is the ROI good? If you're talking like, okay, we'll call it 30 million and then you make 340 million or 335 million.
That's pretty good return.
Seems like a pretty good ROI, especially when you're talking like you've got other sports considered in there. I don't know. It's hard for me to say that it is worth that much money because that much money just seems insane to me.
It's a lot of money. But you're dividing it over 85 scholarship players. Not all will take from that collective, and not, of course, they don't all get the same amount of money, and they don't all necessarily get money from that. But it is divided among a lot of people, and I think there've always been the have and the have-nots, right? So before, when they were paying under the table, now they can pay over the table also. So it's there's always the have and the have-nots. That's just the way it goes.
Selfishly, I think it doesn't matter one way or the other for Texas because Texas has the money to be able to play this game. They're one of the few that does that can always one up other schools. But I think we've also seen too that the program that Sark is building, he's not necessarily going to be the highest bidder on every player. We've talked about this multiple times. Like, yes, Texas has money. Yes, Texas is willing to pay money, but you've also got to have not just the talent, not just the skills, not just the head for it. You also have to be that culture fit too. You also have to be coachable. You also have to be, the good fit for the team to fit in the right place and understand that, like, just because you're getting a bunch of money and just because you've got this talent, you're not necessarily going to be a starter from day one. You still have to work. You still have to go through it. So again, talking just pure numbers, it's hard for me to wrap my head around that. But at the end of the day, Texas can afford it. And the ROI seems pretty dang good. And by the way, we're also developing players and putting them in the NFL too. Seems like a fair payoff. It seems like it's working out okay so far.
Yeah, you're right, CB. That number's been disputed. I've heard more like 30-ish, but who knows? I mean, if they win me a championship, pay them. All right. Okay, one more thing before we move on to Coach Sarkisian's interview with Josh Pate, which was fantastic, and we have some clips to talk about. But we want to get into the conversation about the commitment. There was a commitment of a kicker, and we know Texas has had some amazing kickers, historic kickers. So Texas is a great place to come if you want to be a kicker with Jeff Banks, fantastic special teams coach. And his name is Trot O'Neill. In that Dicker the Kicker kind of names, or
Trot O'Neill, like that's a legit football name. Trot
The only
O'Neill.
thing I love his the edit here. There's a fiery longhorn, like the one in the sky, like laser longhorn. What I don't love about this is they use the Texas. The Texas is the end goal of the field, the end zone, and they have Texas upside down because they're shooting from one end of the end zone.
Yeah.
That bothered me in this edit, but it's
I don't think anybody is going to look at this and go, "That's anti-Texas."
No, I'm not saying it's anti-Texas. I'm saying the Texas should be even if it's not like realistic. I would either blur out the Texas or turn the words up the right way up or something. But that was a little just note to whoever edited that.
Yeah, and it looks like he is the long snapper. The long snapper there.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, he's the long snapper. I don't know why I wrote kicker here. Yes, long snapper. And he lists himself as a 5-star in his bio. All right. Big news here is Longhorns sign quarterback transfer.
let's see right here. Yeah, Matthew Caldwell from Troy. So Matthew Caldwell has started 5 games with Troy last year. He started at Jacksonville State, and then he went to Gardner-Webb for 2 years. Then he was at Troy for a year. He has only 1 year of eligibility left. So Megan, this was a big controversy, not controversy, but people had questions about it this weekend when that announcement was made. Texas has, we know, Arch Manning, who's been waiting for his starting position, and right behind him is Trey Owens, and right behind him, incoming freshman KJ Lacey. So I have a question for you, Megan. I want your thoughts on this. What does this say to you about how Sarkisian and Milwee feel about the quarterback room?
Look, I think on the surface, the knee-jerk reaction is, oh, geez, this could potentially cause some problems, right? But when you think about it, I feel like this says coaches have learned from past experience. Shit happens in the season. Injuries happen. You know, I hate to be this guy. I don't want to like bring up any bad juju here. But frankly, like we experienced starting quarterback going out, inexperienced quarterback coming in. Not that he wasn't great, not that he wasn't a 5-star, not that he didn't have high expectations. It was just the inexperience coupled with being thrown in the spotlight. That didn't work out so well for Texas. So in the sense that like, and I think this is where Texas fans are going to kind of look back and go, man, we were in a good position with Quinn. Quinn had experience. Now, Arch has been in the system, has been with Sark. This will be the 3rd year, right? He's got experience there. But like you said earlier, Rocky, he wasn't a starter for the whole season. This hasn't been, quote unquote, his team until now. So bringing in a little more experience, bringing in a guy with a year of eligibility left, I think that signals to the guys that are coming up after, hey, look, we're not replacing you. We've just got a guy with a few years under his belt, maybe a little long in the tooth in a good way. He's got that experience. He's been on the field. He understands what's happening. So God forbid, if something happens, there's a little bit of experience back behind there. So again, knee-jerk reaction, you go, ooh, shit, hope this doesn't cause problems. But really, when you look at it, I think this is a smart move to get that experience in the locker room while you're still developing Trey Owens, while you're still developing KJ Lacey, and letting those guys really take their time and not being forced into a position where they may have to, you know, perform in a way that they're not ready to do yet.
Right. I agree completely. I think this is a great insurance, great depth. We know most quarterbacks in college and NFL won't start every game, right? Things happen. You need backup. But Trey Owens, we've seen he's fantastic arm. He's been in Sark systems now for, you know, he got last spring and this spring, and then all of last year redshirted. But there still needs to be depth. KJ Lacey, everything we've heard, even Coach Sark said himself and the media availability recently that there's confidence. They're getting the system down. All the quarterbacks have presence on the field and leadership skills. But KJ Lacey still needs time to develop physically too, coming from high school. So there's no need to rush him if something happens where they need the 3rd quarterback to play at some point this year, which happens often, you know, in a long season, especially if they're hoping to be playing through late January, odds are they're going to need the depth. So I think it's a fantastic decision to bring in this other quarterback. So last season, Aggressively Optimistic showed his stats here against Iowa, 14 for 21, 1 TD, 156 yards. But I think the key too is, so last year he started 5 games, but he threw for 1,600 yards, 13 TDs to 8 interceptions. But I think this is the key too, is that he also rushed for 5 touchdowns. And this is the key because if he's got this big Arch Manning style body, then he's somebody that they can use maybe in goal line or places where, you know, they need that physical depth or maybe a run threat, or they don't have to scale back the playbook. The playbook that's being expanded for Arch, they won't have to scale that back so much. And, you know, he can make deep throws. Let me show this video here. He's got an arm too, a legit deep threat arm. CJ Vogel shared this video, and I'll show it to you here, of a great throw by Caldwell.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, look,
Iowa. Yeah.
Anytime that you can bring a guy in that's got experience and that kind of fits your system, I don't want to say he's going to be a plug and play guy, right? Like Sark
A
has
lot to learn about Sark's system.
yeah,
right?
Sark has complicated systems, but we know that Sark's a quarterback guy. And anytime that you can find an athlete that has the attributes that you're looking for, has that experience, and feels like he's going to be a guy that can pick things up quickly. Again, at this point in Sark, we trust, right? Like, I'm not questioning the man. Watching what he did with Quinn and where he brought from where Quinn started to where Quinn finished at Texas, right? Like, we understand Arch Manning is coming up really well. Sark understands what to do with quarterbacks. He understands, and he's finally in a position where these are his guys at quarterback. He's picking the kind of athlete. Again, we're starting to see that really athletic, can throw. First and foremost, is an elite passer, but also has the ability to run, give that extra threat, work behind a good O-line, and then understands, like, this is a complicated offense. So you're seeing that more and more. You're seeing these guys and his, the physique that he likes, the head for the game that he likes. You're starting to see a pattern with Sark come in. So yeah, I think at day's end, this is a great fit for Texas. Again, I don't think, because he's got 1 year of eligibility left, I don't think this is a huge threat to your quarterback room. I don't think anybody's going to go, oh shit, like, I'm being replaced. But at the same time too, Sark has always been very clear about, again, just because you're a starter today doesn't mean you're a starter tomorrow. Like, he likes that competition. And like Babers always said, iron sharpens iron, right? You have that healthy competition. You have that quarterback room where everybody is fighting for a spot. Everybody's making everybody better. I think it's only good for the program.
All right. So if you had to guess now, way too early, bold prediction, when Arch gets up by 20 at Ohio State, no, I'm just kidding, and the next weekend at home, who do you think comes in first as the backup, Trey Owens or Caldwell?
Yeah, I think we'll probably see Caldwell. Like, honestly, again, you're putting him in a position. Now, a lot of this is going to depend on how quickly he picks up the system. A lot of it's going to depend on things like, how is your O-line performing? How is your young O-line performing? What are your running backs doing? Like, what does this look like? But again, knee-jerk reaction, just gut feeling. Yeah, I think it's going to be Caldwell, because the whole point of bringing the guy in with experience is that you want a guy with experience, right? So you get him some more snaps in real time, in real games under Sark's offense. That would be my guess. Again, a lot of factors go into that, but plunger to the head, that's what I'm picking.
If I had to bet right now, I would say it's still Trey Owens that goes in first, because he's more familiar with the system.
Sure.
And I think Caldwell might have a lot to learn to catch up to speed. And maybe later he pulls away and his experience pays off, especially because he's so much older too. But I think initially maybe Trey Owens has the advantage because he has the experience. But we'll see who rolls out there. That's going to be fun. All right, so let's get into this Coach Sark interview with Josh Pate. Let me go ahead and pull it up. And when I opened it, it just started playing. So let me hit pause on this video. All right, so this is Josh Pate. I love Josh. There it goes. I love Josh Pate. I think he does a fantastic job of, like, rolling with the interview and letting the conversation lead into the next conversation. And I think
he's a great interviewer.
He has really thoughtful questions that show he's prepared and sincere. Like, he really, wants to learn about, the conversation. So he came to Austin because this interview is done here, at looks like Moncrief. We're here in Austin, and he talks to Sark, and it's a 45-minute interview. So I recommend go watch the whole thing later, not right now, but go watch the whole thing. So first he talks about, and I'll just play a little bit of this. He talks about, Sark talks about what it was like taking the job during, like, COVID time and coming from right after the COVID year in 2020. He came in January 21 and joined the staff. Oh, this is what's going to happen with my mouse. Hang on. I have two mice right now.
You and your technical difficulties. You're too fancy over here.
No. I have the one with the trackpad thing, but it keeps getting, like, locked and stuck. But I need the trackpad to zoom in and out. You know what I mean? Okay, here we go. I'm just going to use my other mouse. Oh, well, here we go. Let me play it. So this is where he's talking about joining Texas and how different it was from what he first thought, and when he got here, what he realized were the needs of this team.
Anyhow, we won, so it worked out. And then, at the end of that spring semester, your athletic department always gives you your cumulative team GPA for the year,
Right.
fall, spring semesters. And we had a 2.33 team GPA, and I thought that's not very good. Granted, University of Texas, great institution, top 5 public university in the country. 2.33 is not great. Then the season rolls around and we go 5-7, and we have blown 6 straight second half leads. Not very good.
No draft picks.
We have no draft picks.
Thanks for rubbing
So
that in.
what was the problem? What was our issue? I said, we have a culture issue. We lack accountability. We're entitled. Okay. We don't serve others. It's about me. And that in that moment, I know we've touched on this before, but in that moment, it was like, that's the real issue going on. Yeah, granted, we want talent, right? And we want to acquire talent. We want to retain our talent. And we put an emphasis on the line of scrimmage and those types of things. But at the end of the day, it wasn't a talent issue that we had that year. It was a culture issue. And
What are your thoughts on that, Megan? It wasn't a talent issue; it was a culture issue.
I agree 1,000%. Look, I know you and I get in these debates from time to time. I'm very much a vibes, sparkly, shiny person. How people get along matters, right? So for me, yeah, I see that 1,000%. Truly, that was Tom Herman's downfall. It's not that his teams weren't talented. It's not that he didn't know how to get the talent. He was a smart offensive mind. It was that the culture, there was such a culture clash. There was, unrest in the locker room. It was the haves versus the have-nots, pitting guys against each other on the back end. And I think we saw this. I mean, again, if we're going to talk about it, the Bo Davis rant really brought this to the surface. We just got our asses kicked at Iowa State, and guys were joking around. Nobody was pissed off. Nobody was mad. Hell, I was talking about that before that whole thing came out. I was mad as a fan watching our guys leave the field because nobody was. Now, again, I'm not advocating violence here, but nobody was taking their helmet off and smashing it. Nobody was pissed. Nobody was angry leaving that field. It was just oh, well, okay, now here we go. So I saw it. I think you saw it. I think a lot of fans saw it. And even if you couldn't pinpoint exactly, quote unquote, this is a culture issue, we felt it. We understood that, like, these guys know how to play football. These coaches know how to coach football. So what the heck is it that's not clicking? What's not going along? And I agree wholeheartedly. I think we saw a lot of the playing for the name on the back versus the name on the front. Right. And that's something that took a little bit. And again, it became very public when Bo Davis had the rant on the bus. This is what, he famously said, this is my job. This is what I do for a living. This is my family. And if you're not as dedicated as I am, then get the fuck out. Get out. Like you are either in or you're out. You're all about this or you're completely out. And I don't disagree with that. And since that moment, since Sark has been able to get the guys that are all about this life, that are, what did he keep saying? Obsessed, absolutely obsessed, right? That culture has changed. And you see it. You see that these guys are playing for each other. You see that I got your back, man. I'm playing for you. I'm not just playing to elevate my name. Now, we've probably had a guy or two that's all about them. But at the end of the day, the overall feel for the team is, I'm doing this for the team. It's a bunch of Roshan Johnsons, right? Like, I'm going to do what I need to do for the team, and the team is what matters, the success of the team. And that culture has made them a team. Right. It's rare to see the football guys out without each other, like it. So yeah, I get it. I agree with that 100%. Obviously, to me, I feel like this is the proof is in the pudding kind of thing. You took Texas from 5-7 to competing, being a player or two away from the national championship 2 years in a row. I think that's hard to argue.
Yeah, that's what he talked about. He talked about the steady climb going from, and we've heard him talk about the GPAs and the wins and how all those things go together and the community service work, like all those things. He always talks about how you do anything is how you do everything, right? And they building all of that together. And he talked about the steady climb that they've gotten better in everything each year. And it hasn't really been a roller coaster, right? And so then Josh Pate asked him, well, how do you manage, that steady growth, but also in the time of NIL and transfer portal and the other, all the other distractions nowadays with how do you keep that going? And this was Sark's answer, which I loved. You talked about hard work works. And let me let you hear this.
We say it all the time. We're capable of anything around here. We're entitled to nothing. And entitlement is a really scary thing in college football right now that we have to fight against. We have to monitor really closely because the moment you feel entitled, that hard work doesn't quite kind of match up with what the expectations might be, right? Because the worst word in sports is potential. That is the worst word. I tell our players all the time, you never want to be labeled a guy with great potential. Because that means you're not him, right? That means you aren't living up to what you're capable of being. And so
you don't want to be Mr. Potential.
I get it. Now let me ask you this question. You don't want to be Mr. Potential, but can you be high ceiling guy? Right? Like this player has a high ceiling.
I don't know. That's funny.
Yeah.
So anyway, he talked. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say he talked about how do you manage, like, especially when you're building your roster and you have players that aren't starting. How do you manage that? And he said they get their reports from the academics, from the strength coach, position coaches, all these people, and he can lay it out to them. This is what's happening. This is where you are. Like, this is your he didn't use the word report card, but this is where you are. Like, it's easy to communicate to them when it's a whole village of people explaining to them their status and what they're putting out is what they're going to get back. This I think the next thing I want to talk about was kind of a lesson for just life in general. We know sports is like life, right? And learning to talks about being comfortable, get comfortable with being uncomfortable, right? We've heard him use that phrase before with his staff and with his players. This was really good. And I think this is a lesson for just life in general about there's things that are out of our control, and it's our attitude towards them and how we get things done that determine if we're successful or not.
Look at the situation we're in, and then how can we make the best of the situation that we're in and look at it from an open mind. And one of the worst answers anybody can ever give me in any space is, oh, that's just what we've always done before. Or we've never done it that way before. I don't want to hear that. I want to hear about what's best for the situation and think about our players first and then worry about us. And so if we can go into every situation with that kind of mindset, generally we're going to try to get to a resolution that is pretty good. Not some are better than others. I understand that, but for the most part, pretty good.
When you're thoughts on that?
Yeah. I mean, again, he got dangerously close to saying potential there. No, but look, yeah, I mean, I think that's part of what he's about. It's part of the development of the player. It's the reason that we're seeing guys get those positions in the NFL. The reason we're seeing guys get drafted. It's not just about your talent or how strong you are or how fast you are. It's about, do you get it? Do you understand? I mean, he said this many times. It's the, why are you doing what we're doing? Why do we make these decisions? Are you truly understanding the game of football? And once you do, everything slows down, right? Like everything makes more sense. So you sprinkle in that bit of, hey, you're still having to fight for your position. It's not about you, it's about team. Why are you doing what you're doing? Why are we doing what we're doing as a team? And all of a sudden you get these high IQ, high talent guys that are there for a bigger purpose other than themselves. That feels like the magic formula, right? Like that feels like that rare combination that it takes, that rare, I don't know, you're in rare air at that point, because you can build really good teams. We talked earlier about buying rosters, right? You can build really good teams with money, and have a lot of really talented people who maybe don't play well together, but they're talented enough to push through. CB, you mentioned this in the comments. Entitlement was rampant at Texas during the 2010s and during the 2021 season. You're right. But again, like what we said earlier, it wasn't that they weren't talented. Texas was still winning those, crazy, totally pointless recruiting battles, or not battles, but the recruiting trophies of the #1 class and high ranking classes. Well, who cares if you don't get it, if you don't fit into the culture, if you don't develop as a player? So it's never been about talent. Texas has always been able to pull talent with money or with the name Texas. But until players get it, and until they understand the culture, and until they understand the more nuanced pieces beyond the X's and O's, you just have a bunch of talented dudes running around on the field, right? You don't necessarily have a championship team. What do you think, Rocky?
I agree. He talked about that later too, even bringing in players or transfer portal players or however he said. And even he talked about this with the coaching staff too. I encourage everybody to go watch this interview. We won't cover it all right now, but he talked about that even the coaching staff, when he meets them, like they have to bring something that enhances the program, that is a culture fit, and how protective he is of the culture. And then he talked about Quinn and, how much he owes Quinn. To Quinn because of the legacy. And we mentioned this last week, Megan, you and I talked about this, that one of the things that, yes, Quinn fell in the draft, but one of the things that Texas Longhorns have to always be thankful for Quinn is that when he came, other players came with him, right? Those offensive line players came because they wanted to play with Quinn Ewers, right? There was receivers that came because Quinn was going to throw them the ball. There were defensive players that came because there were great receivers to train against, and practice against. All those things. And Sark mentioned that 5 players come because of Quinn, and then 10 players come because of those 5, and then 20 players and it was a fantastic explanation of what you and I were just talking about last week, that Quinn did get things rolling at Texas as the talent and the recruiting. A lot of players came and stayed. Some could have left with the coaching change too, but a lot of players came or stayed because Quinn was the quarterback. And that, then you see Arch Manning's comes in and the same thing happens. Great players want to play with great players.
Yeah, agreed. And again, I think this is where you're seeing that buy-in, that culture piece come into play. Like, yes, 1,000%. Great players want to play with great players, but at the end of the day, do you get that extra push if your great players haven't completely bought into the program and what you're doing and how they're developing and the trajectory of the program? You see Arch Manning out there again. We saw this with Sammy. We saw this with Quinn. These guys are out there recruiting their butts off, right? T Sweat talking trash when he gets to Nashville, supporting Texas. Look, like these guys are buying into the program as a whole, to Texas as a whole, to the culture as a whole, to the team. Like, you don't get those kind of comments. You don't get that kind of buy-in if it's not real, if it's not a thing that there isn't a real bond there, So I think for sure we're seeing a really unique and special thing for Texas. Now, again, that's not to say other teams don't have their culture. That's not to say that other teams don't like each other, right? But especially compared to where this Texas program was 10 years ago, 6 years ago, right? Like, that's a huge shift in so much more than just talent and so much more than just X's and O's. It's been a massive shift. And we've seen how much that has affected the play on the field and the results at the end of the seasons. So it's hard not to buy in at this point.
Right. Okay. One last thing I want to share about the Josh Pate interview. We all know Sark is just a fan of college football, right? College, NFL, and college football. He just loves the game. So the great question Josh Pate asked him is like, tell us about your day, like game day. What's that like for you? And I can listen to Sark talk all day, but this is his comment about what game day is like for him, how much he just soaks up the moments, right?
To us, it's 3.5 or 4 hours. To you, what does that time even feel like?
Well, first of all, there's nothing better than game day. Like, I get up like it's Christmas morning. I'm so excited on game day, but my mind is going. My mind, it's like you get up, turn the switch on and it's on. Your mind is going, and you're constantly thinking about contingency plans, because you have the plan of offense, defense, special teams, and then the nuances within the plan.
And then it's nine.
And then
midway through the season.
then one of those things isn't going right. What's the contingency plan? But when I step on the grass before the game, I go out probably a little earlier than most head coaches, because there's, to your point, there's so much other stuff. You got recruits there, you got donors there, you got all, the stuff, the music's playing, and sometimes I just want to get into my space, into my zone. And so I get on the field and I just walk around and do nothing.
Yep.
But I'm out there earlier probably than most head coaches, because I'm calling the plays too. And so I have to kind of get myself into this space, to your point, that is almost a little bit of a silo, to think very clearly and to be clear-minded and to be focused. But then when the moment hits, right, when that ball gets kicked off, to put it into perspective, think about making a decision every 30 seconds. Imagine if you're sitting at home and for the next 4 hours, your wife asking you, what do you want to eat, every 30 seconds.
Man, I don't know.
When you say, I don't know, that's called a delay a game.
He's so great. Anyway, he goes on and on. I encourage everybody to go watch that interview. It made me think, like, yeah, he really has because he takes on the play calling, right? He really has to prepare everyone, and there's all the distractions. The media people need to interview him and ask him questions. Recruits are on campus. He probably has to shake some donors' hands and all the things that are happening. But also, he needs to be preparing strategically. And for 4 hours, that must just be exhausting, like mentally exhausting at the end of the game, to have to make all those decisions throughout the whole game and be aware of what's happening on defense and special teams the whole time too.
Yeah, I think you bring up a good point. Now, I will argue this. We've seen multiple head coaches say this. DKR, Mac Brown, Sark has alluded to it a couple of times, referring to what both of those coaches have said. The situation at Texas is really unique. Mac Brown liked to talk about the BBs in the box, right? Once the BBs are out of the box, it's hard to get them all back in. There are a lot of challenges. When things are going well, the head coaching position at the University of Texas is the best of the best. You've got the best resources. You've got a lot of money. You've got administrations that are in lockstep with each other. You got the best AD in the nation. When things aren't going well, it gets tough, right? And to Sark's credit, he took a program where things weren't always going so well. There were a lot of little things that it wasn't just about the X's and O's. It wasn't just about purely football things that were problematic with Texas. He took a program in that stage and brought it up to a point where everything is clicking on every level. Recruiting's going well. Culture is just humming, right? Like, the guys love each other. Football, the X's and O's are going well. The administration is going well. And it's kind of a unique place right now for Texas football, where all that's going well. And oh, by the way, the fans are actually pretty happy too. They're selling out games. The season tickets are selling, right? Now, we know Texas fans like to fuss from time to time, right? Just every now and again. But for the most part, sentiment is high. Fans are happy. We feel good. The athletics program is doing well. Football is doing great. So to see that massive shift and to consider all of the things and all of the decisions and all of the little pieces that people don't think about or people don't see day to day, all of those decisions that had to be made constantly, almost 24/7, right? For 5 years straight to get to this point, that's really impressive. And it takes, and I think it speaks to the kind of coach, the kind of person, the kind of mentor, and the kind of brain that Coach Sarkisian has and the person that he is, to consider how down in the dumps this Texas program was, to go from that to where we are now, the millions of decisions that had to be made 24/7 along the way over a course of 5 years to get where we're at is staggering. It's really impressive. It's really impressive.
He really credited his staff too, for all being in alignment. It's just a great interview. All right. But one of the things that really we saw grow over the time. He mentioned the steady climb was, and you mentioned this, a bunch of Rojos in the house, right? Roshan Johnson's in the house. The character and culture that's been built up, these players are now taking that on to the next level, right? We saw a high draft class, lots of praise from NFL, staff about the way the Texas Longhorn carry themselves. I wanted to kind of highlight just a few people right now. Roshan Johnson that you mentioned, Matthew Gold, Jahdae Barron, and Barron Sorrell. A few key notes about some really amazing praise that they've gotten the last few days. So let's start with Roshan Johnson, because you mentioned him a minute ago. Corey Mose is always on top of it. He's always knows everything that's happening with everyone. What were you going to say?
I was just going to give a shout out to Corey Mose. I think that guy has actually like cloned himself several times.
How
I don't
is
know
he
if
everywhere?
He's like that movie Multiplicity back in the day with Michael Keaton, where a guy like clones himself and clones himself and clones himself to get all this work done. Because I don't understand how 1 second Corey is at softball and then baseball, and then also, oh, by the way, he caught every single person's interview somehow for the NFL, and also at spring practice. He's absolutely killing it, man. Like, so Corey
also, he's
and
at
the 17
every draft party,
right. Like,
high school
2
party.
hours later, he's across the country at the other draft party. Yeah, listen, Corey and his 17 clones are doing amazing work. So please give him a follow. Please pay attention. Like, he's absolutely incredible.
And he kills it on Twitter and Instagram too. All right. So yeah, he also has time to make amazing social media posts. So he says Roshan Johnson taught flag football to girls in the UK, co-hosted a free camp in Austin, and is putting on a camp in his hometown. And this is what Chicago Bears running back Roshan Johnson had to say about why he's doing all this.
Why do you continue to be so active in the community and teaching football to younger kids?
Yeah, I think it's just a way for me to give back. It's just a way for me to, ultimately just give back. I feel like I have a great sense of purpose when I interact with young kids and try to get back in the sport. And yeah, I enjoy doing it.
What do you hope the kids got out of today?
Really just by having fun through the sport, just learning, and ultimately just just getting out and seeing a professional football player, and me giving them encouragement that they can actually do it.
What?
I love him so much.
Incredible dude. You love to see it. Culture guy, right?
Yes. And Sark praises him as being one of the key people that helped transition to his culture, over time. One of the people who has also grown up in the system the last few years, Barron Sorrell. Everyone was so proud when he was drafted by the Green Bay Packers. He stayed in Green Bay so he could have the big moment walking out. But what you really learn about the players when they're there or when they leave, I remember the professors are the ones who actually have to deal with them, right? Last year we heard bad news from professors out in Colorado about how awful the players were behaving in campus. Yeah. So to see professors who are really, have to take a moment to honor and give good kudos to Texas football players. This one professor, Michael Brandel, was a macroeconomics professor. He talked about how Barron Sorrell sought him out, went to extra hours, extra work, did all these things, and how the relationship he ended up building with him. And that just goes to show you that the players, they really do go above and beyond, and how hard it is to be a good academic student at Texas anyway, but to do that with the full load of football, and a lot of these guys now have media commitments and places to be in. We saw they're doing volunteer hours, like all the things they have to take on to excel is just way beyond even just a few years ago what people had to do.
Yeah, can I just say for a minute, I love seeing all of the positive attention that Barron Sorrell is getting. I think he was a guy that was, and forgive me for saying this, but I think he was a guy that was easy to overlook last year.
Right.
And all of these big stars and all of these big names and all the drama going on in the Texas, the Texas universe. I think Sorrell quietly put up these crazy numbers and was just putting his head down, going to work, doing his job. And I absolutely love seeing my timeline blow up with positive things, people coming out of the woodwork to share these great stories about him. I know that his mama was a surprise guest the other day, and just watching him come out and say, "Hey, mom," like he just seems like a genuinely good dude that's getting his flowers and having his moment. And that's just a cool thing to see. We don't always get that. And with all the negative news that you hear all over there with everything, it's just really nice and really refreshing to see these guys getting their flowers for being good human beings. Oh, and by the way, they can play a little ball. I just think it's a cool thing.
Yeah, let's hear his mom. I'm glad you mentioned that, because NFL at the NFL.com at NFL did a 5-minute, we're not going to play it all, just a minute of it, 5-minute feature with his mom talking with him. And then he talks at the end, thanking his parents. But listen to the mom, his mom talk about how much work he put into everything he does. And we'll just play a little bit of it.
I love you more than words. And we all know how thoroughly I love words. Football players aspiring to play in the NFL are often asked the question, so what's your backup plan? I remember when you were young, you would get so upset when anyone asked you that question, including me. And I didn't quite get it. But as time went on, and I've studied you even closer over the past 4 years, I understand. I understand that you have always been the type of person from young that once you set your mind to something, once you set a goal, failure was not an option. You would do whatever you needed to do to meet those goals. You worked diligently, almost obsessively, towards getting to the end goal, right? So if that meant working out extra outside of the sport, going and finding additional resources, coming to me and your dad, hey, I'd like to do this, I want to add this, I want to change my nutrition plan, I need this supplement. Whatever you needed to do, you were willing to do it.
How special. She goes on to say, all the things he did. She's so proud, of course, proud of him, but he seems like just a good kid. We know he's a good man. We know when we talked last week in the draft, people were saying, they were asking Texas Longhorn players, if you could bring any player with you to the NFL to be your teammate again, who would it be? And people were saying Barron Sorrell over and over. That's the biggest praise, right? Is if your teammates would bring you with them or would want you on their team at the next level. So congrats to Barron Sorrell. And that's really, really, so proud of him.
Yeah, I know. I'm cheesy. I will own it, but I get teary-eyed with stuff like that. Like, it's cool to see players that have done well and represented Texas well get credit and get called out for being awesome humans. Like that is just a cool thing. And listen, I've said it before, I've said it earlier, with all the negativity that we see, all the ugliness that we see, seeing these positive accounts and seeing these people getting shout out and getting their flowers for just being damn good people as well as damn good players, you got to feel good about that. That's just a nice break. It's a nice breakthrough. The sunshine, the ray of sunshine through the clouds, right?
Yes. All right. One last shout out, Jahdae Barron. We know he got lots of praise for the way he carried himself on and off the field throughout the entire draft process. First round pick. He just been sharing lately. He has a new media, The Real Jahdae B. He has new accounts, and he was talking about how he's not going to be posting on them. He has a team of people managing them. Let's see.
Reporting from The Real Jahdae B account. My in-house crew, they'll be running this page. I'll be sending them pictures and videos to upload. I will not have access to this account, but I'll still find a way to be connected with you guys. Thank you for the love and support. Appreciate it.
All right. So Jahdae, The Real Jahdae B, you can go follow him there. There's a team of people now working for him. Good job.
I love that he says that too, because sometimes like it's a little ambiguous. Like I appreciate that he outright it. And look, it's a little bit of a peek behind the curtain. It takes a lot to run a brand. It takes a lot to run, a social account. And oh, by the way, he plays a little ball too, on top of the community service, on top of all the other commitments that he has. So I'd kind of love that he's shouting out like, "Hey, I've got a social media team. Like, I can't do all this on my own, but I'm going to stay connected with y'all." I thought that was a nice thing for him to just be upfront and transparent about it.
All right. So congrats, Longhorns in the NFL. We'll be following lots of careers now because, as Sark said, when he first got to Texas, there were only 32 total, and there have been 28 in just the last few years. And so,
Listen, we talked about, Texas soccer having 20 professionals now out playing professional soccer. That's I guess the slight downside of so many Longhorns going pro is now I have to spend money with teams that I don't like to support my players. Our Longhorns in the NFL. I'm gonna buy jerseys for teams that I don't care about because dang it, I want to support our Longhorns.
there you go. There's a lot of them in the NFL. So
I know. I what was Tiger King? I'll never financially recover from this.
All right. So let's just cover a couple of big top stories. One of the biggest top stories, of course, of the sports world last week was Popovich, officially stepping away from the San Antonio Spurs. 29 seasons, 5 championships, 1,422 wins, most all time. Wow, what a legacy. Look at these. Look how young they are with Tim Duncan and Manu Ginobili and just all the legends that have come through under Popovich's care and direction, and what he brought to San Antonio as a premier sports team in the city. Yeah. Oh, look at that. Yeah, look at that.
Listen, I'm going to get my old lady cane out and shake it in the air when I make this statement, but I feel like this era of NBA was when the NBA was at its peak.
Oh, so good.
I didn't miss a Spurs game. You had Parker, you had Ginobili, you had Duncan, you had Duncan and Robinson for a little bit.
Yes,
Coach Pop getting in there. Like, I feel like that was peak NBA. Just, it was fun to watch. It was a team sport. It feels like that shifted a little bit. Full disclosure, like NBA is probably my least watched professional sport at this point in time. Just, man, Coach Pop was so iconic. And Rocky, did you catch him in his presser where he had Ginobili with them and he had
Yes, they helped walk him out.
Yeah, and so like he has suffered several health setbacks, so I think everybody agreed it was time and he was ready, but I absolutely loved seeing him in his tracksuit, and then he said, "All right, well, I'm no longer coach, but now," and he unzips his tracksuit, "I'm El Jefe." So like, it was just a cool moment. Again, I feel like we've kind of developed this theme over this particular episode of culture, right? And Pop was one of those dudes that built culture. He understood it was bigger than the sport. He understood it was bigger than just the X's and O's in the game. And seeing the dynasty that he built and the coaching tree that he grew is absolutely incredible. So definitely a change in guard, definitely a new era for San Antonio. But I think I don't think anybody can argue with the legacy that Coach Pop leaves behind.
Yeah. Also, too, like I know I would have loved Becky Hammon to be the first woman to be the head coach of an NBA team. Mitch Johnson stepped up, but the way, I mean, we know she got to do some interim coaching at the time, and it was the way he embraced women and the city of San Antonio, and really, didn't doubt Becky Harmon's skills one bit because she was a woman, and those kind of things were just landmark strides for women in sports and the city of San Antonio, and just nothing but love for Popovich. And yeah, there you go, CB, por vida. Yes. All right. So we have to say, of course, another big story this weekend was Justin Tucker being released from the Ravens. He would have still could, who knows, Hall of Fame kicker, Hall of Fame career, legendary at Texas for being the kick that sent the Aggies off to the SEC. He's broken records in the NFL, Pro Bowl year after year. But of course, there's no escaping multiple accusations over many years from different women. Adam Schefter says, he's been accused of inappropriate behavior throughout the city of Baltimore for years at different spas. And of course, he's vehemently denied it. It's called it unequivocally false, but it just piles up. It's a distraction. It's being investigated, but the Ravens said it's time for Justin Tucker to go.
Yeah, well, and the Ravens had said, oh, hey, this has nothing to do with anything other than football. Again, Justin Tucker had probably his worst season ever as a professional, as a kicker in general last year, making only, I think it was like 72% of his kicks. But you've got to think that these allegations, and again, innocent till proven guilty, but this is starting to feel very much like where there's smoke, there's fire kind of situation. I appreciate his response. I understand his response. I would like to see how the investigation plays out, but 16 people reporting feels, again, like a where there's smoke, there's fire situation. And can I just say this in general? Like, if you are an NFL player, if you are a professional player with a lot of money, can we just, like, are we to a point that the NFL is just going to ban massage parlors in general? How many massage parlors are bringing down NFL guys at this point? Like, just stay out of them. Like, you're a rich dude.
The massage parlor isn't the problem. It's the
No, I
guys
know.
that can't pay properly.
I'm not saying the massage
And remember,
parlor is the problem.
in Houston, what's his face that went to Cleveland?
Yeah,
But
Deshaun.
he even had issues with trainers that are supposed to be. So it's not the location. It's the
again. I'm not blaming the women. I'm certainly not blaming the women. I'm not blaming the profession. I am saying though,
people who can't behave properly, men or women.
I'm not disagreeing with that, but like at a certain point, maybe the NFL is just going to say no massage parlors. Like, that's done. It's out.
I mean,
like,
some of them need legit treatment, therapy. Like, anyway, moving on. Okay, the best thing, Michigan. Remember how they had the whole scandal with Connor Stallions? What's his name? Connor Stallions scandal.
Yeah.
So Sharon Moore, the head coach of Michigan, it's turned out he was a part of it and at some level, or knowing or involvement or something. So they've self-imposed a 2-game suspension for him. But is it the biggest games of the year? Is it conference play? Is it even the first 2 games of the year?
Oh, no.
Oh, of course not. It's the games 3 and 4 against Nebraska and Central Michigan.
I just feel like, and Rocky, I want your take on this. Is this actually a punishment? I feel like this kind of thing, I'm all for schools self-imposing issues, like, right? Like, a lot of schools self-report, and that is a way to mitigate larger penalties from the NCAA. You self-report, you say, hey, we effed up. Like, we're going to self-impose our own punishments here. But I feel like punishments like this that play out in this way are exactly why the NCAA is a completely toothless and ridiculous organization at this point. Self-imposing doesn't mean cherry picking the pointless games, right? Like, how do you defend this as a self-imposed punishment? How do you defend it going, well, it's not, okay, so you're going to self-impose, cool. So the first 2 games just to get them out of the way? Oh, no, not the first 2 games.
The ones we think
okay,
so easiest. And how
so
rude
when you're in like the heat of, competition you're going to self-impose against your rivals, right? Oh, no, not quite. Not quite. Well, at least like you're going to self-impose what with, all conference get. Oh, no. We're going to pick and choose the shittiest teams that we're going to play. And we're going to throw in a conference foe, but one of the worst ones that we face in Nebraska.
What an insult to
Nebraska, right? Like, Nebraska should be real offended by that. Like, if you are the team that this other team supposedly is self-imposing this stuff on, how would you take that? Like, I'd be offended by that. Oh, so I'm the shitty team that
is offensive.
Yeah. So I don't know, man. I just feel like this kind of quote unquote punishment is exactly why nobody takes the NCAA. Like allowing this is why nobody takes the NCAA seriously.
No. All right, let's hit a couple comments. Miracle Martinez, no, we're not ending on the sad note of Popovich. Go Spurs, go. Yes. No, we're not ending on sadness. We actually have a really positive thing to end off in just a second. Yes, CB Tucker is going to be the greatest kicker in NFL history on the field, and they did draft a kicker.
Yeah.
So it was lining up, right? Okay, so a couple cool things. ACL lineup is out. Megan, I don't know what you think about this lineup. Nadia, I sent the lineup to Nadia, and I was like, "What do you think?" She's like, "This is amazing." And I guess it's a age thing because she knew all the people on there, and I knew 4 of the people on there: Sabrina Carpenter, Holder, Doja Cat, Luke Combs, The Strokes, Doechii, John Summit are the big headliners.
Yeah, I feel like I know the headliners, but honestly, I'm roughly in that, like, for the past, I don't know, 7-ish years, I've known the headliners and maybe a few other people that I can pick out, but I am not nearly young enough or cool enough to like weigh in on this topic of conversation. Now, what I will say, just as
is
a
it
note,
worth $300 for the weekend?
for me
$400
personally, no, because
plus
I'll be
$1
at
million
football.
bucks while you're there because everything
Yeah.
is so freaking expensive.
Now I do want to say this. You gotta go pretty far down in this lineup, but I'm gonna say I think it's pretty awesome as a Texan, as an Austinite, that Asleep at the Wheel is gonna be at ACL. And again, like, this is where I'm shaking my cane in the air once more. I don't know that the young kids know Asleep at the Wheel, but damn, I think that's pretty cool that they're.
They might because they have a place at the airport.
Yeah, like,
I like to
they're
see
still kicking it.
HT, Houston Tillotson University Jazz Collective. I would go see them.
I
What they
mean,
got going on.
Listen, I understand ACL is about learning more, like exposure for younger people. So maybe we'll chalk it up to that for younger bands that are up and coming. But yeah, I don't know who most of those people are.
Okay, for me, this is a lineup. Green Day, Lenny Kravitz, Black Crowes, Nelly, Cake, The Fray, Fountains of Wayne, Spin Doctors, Good Charlotte. Oh my God, In Vogue, Jazzy Jeff, Train, Fall Out Boy, Weezer, I mean, this whole lineup, Blind Melon, Michelle Branch, this whole lineup is crazy good. But
4 Non-Blondes. Again,
this is my birthday weekend, so I looked into going, but it is a nightmare to get in and out of this island, and wristbands have been sold out, and you have to fly in to DC or Baltimore or Philadelphia, all 3 hours away. I'm like, this all just sounds like, yeah, that's a great lineup.
Now I need you to pull one more up, because let me be very clear. Like, the ACL lineup, and I feel like the Ocean's Calling lineup.
Yeah,
those are 2 different target demographics. Let's just be honest.
Yeah, absolutely. Here's the ACL lineup.
Right.
Yeah.
So again, I think we missed the bar by probably 20 years on being the target demographic there. But
absolutely.
But there's a third lineup over September 19th through 21st.
In Chicago.
I gotta say, Douglas Park, Chicago, the Riot Fest, Blink 182.
That one right now for you.
Yeah, Blink 182, Weezer, Green Day, Jack White, Sex Pistols.
A little crossover from the other one, yeah.
Yeah.
Great one too. Bad Religion, yeah.
For me, this is one
Weird Al. I would love to see Weird Al.
Say Dropkick Murphys, the Pogues, like, come on, man. Bad Religion. Maybe I'm old as shit. I will fully accept that. I fully accept that I have branched into the geriatric music listener at this point. But yeah, I think we can probably, I'm sure Nadia would roll her eyes listening to us talk about this.
She loves all these too. I showed her this. She loved this lineup too. She loved the Ocean's Calling one. She wants to go to the Ocean's Calling one so bad, but it's just so hard to get there.
I would just offer that perhaps the Riot Fest is easier because it's in Chicago. Like, you don't have to take a plane, train, and automobile to get to this particular
Yeah, I'm all
one.
right. I'm all right. I want that Ocean City one so bad, and I still may have pulled that off for my birthday. All right, couple more things, and we'll wrap up, Megan. Are you a Jersey Shore? Were you ever a Jersey Shore person?
Listen, I feel like for me to
Guilty
answer this,
pleasure?
is this a safe space? Because I mocked Jersey Shore for years. I didn't watch it when it was like peak, but I watched it afterwards, and god damn it, I couldn't stop watching it.
It's the most guilty of guilty great pleasures.
Definitely a guilty pleasure.
15 years since it first came out, when it used to come on Thursdays, Thursdays,
and they're all terrible humans. Let's be clear.
Oh, they're awful, but they're great. But the thing is, they're actually not that bad. Like the more you watch them, you realize that they're actually, except Ronnie, he's awful, but they're actually like loving. And like Pauly D has now made millions all over the world DJing. J Wow has like they all have these businesses and these things. They've like made big lives for themselves. But Richard and I used to watch this show every Thursday and kept up over the years. And then when they went to Italy, I watched. Anyway, they're back at the end of the month on Thursday. They're back, and it's going to be the 15th anniversary.
Again, I think this is in other news. We're still old. Like, yeah. But hey, listen, I won't openly admit this. So for all 7 of you listening right now, I appreciate you. Please keep this a secret. I will 1000% be watching Jersey Shore with you.
So all right. Let's end on happy, positive swimming sports news. This is a Paralympic athlete with no arms and different legs. I'm not sure how the label is for his legs, but look at him smoke everyone in this race. This Paralympic race.
Incredible. So
wow,
dude,
what an athlete.
So I'll be honest, like for those listening, what it looks like right now, like again, he's an Olympic athlete, doesn't have arms, and it looks like his legs might be fused a little bit.
I'm not sure. I can't really tell.
It's hard to tell.
He's
Holy crap.
He's representing Brazil, and he beats everyone. I think they're doing one length of the pool, but so was that a 50-meter race?
Yeah.
And he beats everybody by 20, 30 meters.
That's incredible.
Wow.
That's incredible.
No excuses. No excuses.
Yeah,
right?
Well, I say as I sit on my couch and drink my wine. That's impressive, man. Like he's built for the water. That's awesome.
Wow. I love seeing people overcome massive challenges. Oh, look, we have some Jersey Shore people. CB, I watch it. And Dave Miller, I watch it too.
Our people? All right. I appreciate it.
Brave space.
It is. Circle of trust. Circle of
people
trust.
People
must
watch it because they're bringing it back again, and they're paying them big money to be back, right?
Look, let me before we shut down. I know we're a little over time here, but I do want to ask you.
Situation follows CB.
Oh, good for him.
Situation follows you, CB.
Oh, you famous, cool. CB.
You're famous.
All right, let me ask this. Like, is Jersey Shore coming back because, like, I know that nostalgia is playing into that, and I understand that, like, that was one of the more lucrative properties for MTV, right? But is it coming back because people are genuinely clamoring for this, or is it coming back because current programming is such garbage that they're trying to that they're trying to play it out? Like, well, F it. We haven't had anything that's worked in a while. Let's bring back a thing we knew was great for us.
All of the above. As long as they bring it back, that's fine.
That's fair.
That's cool.
That's
all right,
fair.
Megan, let's wrap it up.
All right, y'all. Well, hey, we appreciate you listening. As always, we really ask that you like and subscribe. Again, that helps us out. We are at Fire the Cannon Podcast on YouTube, and on Instagram and Twitter, we are at Fire the Cannon and the number 1. We appreciate y'all being here. We love hearing your comments. We love y'all participating. So please join us every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Central. We go to 10. Maybe we go a little later. You know, we do our thing. We appreciate y'all being here. As always, y'all, I'm Megan.
I'm Rocky.
And we are Fire the Cannon.
Thanks for sticking out the technical issues.
Yeah, we appreciate it. All right. Hook 'em, y'all.